Hello and welcome to the Knitting Traditions podcast. Today is a very special episode for you. This is going to be a cone video. I am going to be very brutally open about my cone stash, which I see now is quite substantial and a little bit of, it's a little bit overwhelming. I want to do a cone make-along for at least the rest of 2026 with you guys. We might run it longer. There will be prizes. There might be more prizes added as we go. We shall see. But I just really wanted to share my appreciation of knitting from cones with you. I'm going in this video to take you through why I love knitting from cones, so step by step, pros. And then I am going to take you through my stash by section, so from online store to online store, and show you what yarns that I have from said sources. I'm going to mention for most of those sources like what a price typically could be, just to show you how you can get a lot of good yarn for affordable prices. And then if I have made something from said cone that I have available to me in my home right now, I'm going to show you that. Some like little inspiration, if you will. Yes, I am currently wearing a sweater that's not knit from a cone, but I have swatched to make said sweater from cones. This is my own design, the Freyr sweater, which I knit with cones in mind, that you can knit with any yarn as long as you get a 21 stitch gauge. This is knit in 2 strands of lace weight or light fingering to get the 21 stitch gauge. Just, yeah, I love this sweater. I wear it all the time. And I have plans to make it in some cones that I have. When knitting from cones, I swatch. I get a fabric that I enjoy, and then I look for patterns to match the gauge that I enjoy for that yarn. But let's get into this, because I have a lot of cones to go through, and then I have a lot of tidying up to do after this. This might be recorded in several sessions, just because I'm thinking it's going to be a long video, so buckle up. I will put everything in the description below, links to where you can purchase cones if there are online stores available. And I will also put prices and discounts below. I have a few ready now, and then I am talking to some of the cone resources, so there might be added more discounts or prices, and I will put that below this video so you can always go back and see if there's something new has been added. For this cone along, I was thinking we could use the hashtag Cozyconealong on Instagram. I'll put on screen if I change my mind, but Cozyconealong, if you use the hashtag on a photo that you post on Instagram, if you have an open profile, then you'll be eligible to win prizes. As of right now, some prizes that we have are beautiful sock blockers from Alchemy Knits, and I also have 3 €50 coupons from whenyarnblooms that can be used on their site. And we'll see, I might throw in a cone as a prize. We shall see once I've organized my life right here. But yeah, if you post a photo on Instagram with the hashtag Cozyconealong, you might be eligible to win. But even if you don't want to win a prize, or I mean, who doesn't want to win a prize, but if you just are curious about cones, you've come to the right place. And I hope you take this as an opportunity to just see what is out there, and don't judge me too harshly for the amount of yarn that I am hoarding. So, I made a little bit of notes. I have divided cones into commercially available cones, meaning they are online stores that produce yarn repeatedly the same colorways will be available to you. So they make and sell their yarn. And then deadstock sites where they take deadstock yarns that's left over from the Italian clothing industry, for example, that hasn't been used to make clothes and they might otherwise be destroyed. They are redistributing them to you. So those stores typically will have very special fiber compositions at affordable prices. And then I have a few cones in my stash that I've been able to pick up at local yarn stores where I have no idea where they have gotten them from, so they will be almost impossible to get for you. But do check out your local yarn stores. Maybe you can get your hands on some. First, we will start with why knit from cones. Number 1, cheaper. Generally, if you buy yarn on a cone, it will be cheaper than buying the same type of fiber composition yarn in a ball or skein. And there are several reasons for this. One of the reasons is that it has gone through fewer steps of production to get the yarn to you. So they don't wind the yarn from the cone into balls or skeins, so that's one step less machinery needed. And they are usually not washed, so when yarn is on cones, they typically contain some grease or spinning oil to be able to be used in knitting machines. And this is not washed out of it when they sell it on cones, so that it uses less water and it hasn't gone through that step, so it's less production costs. And so that is one thing. Another thing is for those cones that are deadstock cones, they are yarns that otherwise might have been destroyed, so usually they are quite affordable, sort of like a secondhand yarn, kind of. It finds a new purpose in life. So generally it is cheaper. I will go through the prices of the different cones that I have in the next section, but stay tuned for that. The second thing is less ends to weave in. If you're like me and you don't enjoy the finishing of projects, then knitting from cones is great. Let's say you're knitting a top-down sweater. You will have the cast-on tail to weave in, and you will have the bind-off tail to weave in. And then when you pick up for sleeves, there will be one end, and when you bind off the sleeves, there will be one end. So that's a total of 6 ends to weave in. But for the rest of the garment, you will never have to attach another ball, because the entire strand on a cone is continuous. So there are no knots on this. There shouldn't be any knots on this. Knots in yarns typically come from when they wind the yarn off of cones into balls and they have to attach a new cone to the machinery. That will be a knot. Or if it breaks during that process, they will tie a knot. So cones are a very, very, very long strand of yarn, so less ends to weave in. Another thing, the third great thing about cones is that it is space saving, and I will show you what I mean. All right. Yarn is generally wound onto a cone quite tightly. So this right here is a cone of fenol from Rauma that I bought at the factory. This is around 1 kilo of yarn. So that equals 20 balls of yarn. Now just to show you the difference, I picked up a bag that I stuffed with 20 balls of fenol right here. And I'm not squishing it any tightly or anything, I'm just closing it up so you can see the difference in space. This is the same exact amount of yarn. It's the exact same yarn. Balls of fenol, cone of fenol. And you can see, as I'm turning it around here, that this takes up a significant amount of less space. So if you live somewhere where you don't have a yarn room. Like, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of space for my yarn. But if you don't have a lot of space for your yarn, a cone of yarn will save you a lot of space. I would say that this is probably a third, at least, maybe even a fourth of the space that this would take up. If I hold it in front of the bag, there's maybe like one cone there, one cone there, and then it's a bit thinner on top. So I would say maybe a third of the space is what this takes. And the funeral cones are not even that tightly spun onto the cone. Like, I can squeeze this a little bit. Other cones that I have are quite, like this, are quite tightly spun. There isn't a lot of spring to it. So, yeah. You could cut down on the space quite a bit by having a yarn cone instead of balls. And I love knitting from them. So, next. Fourth thing. Great for card knitting. So, hear me out. The reason I specifically think of card knitting is because I'm the kind of person who likes to bring my whips everywhere. I love to knit on the go, and we live in a country where there are quite large distances between where we live and our family. So I spend a lot of time knitting in the car. And balls of yarn can fly everywhere. And I have yarn stands, but they're not the best for knitting in the car. But cones are great. Maybe not very thin cones, because they become more wobbly, but for the majority of a cone, it is quite big, because there's a lot of yarn on it. So what I do is I place the cone on the floor with my feet, and then I just knit from it. And the yarn just comes up like this, and the cone stays on the floor stable. And all of the cones that I have, at least, and I have a lot of cones, you can see that the bottom of the cone is sticking out. So when this stands on the floor, the yarn isn't touching the ground. So I wouldn't limit the perks of just being able to put this on the floor and knitting from it to just the car. I also will put it if I go to a cafe or anywhere out and about, even when flying on the airport. I feel comfortable putting this on the floor. It's not touching anything, and it just stays there stable as I'm knitting from it. So it's great and portable in that sense. At home, I put it on the floor when I sit on the couch and knit. When I do come to the end of a cone, which it takes me quite a while to get to the end of a cone because there is a lot of yarn on most cones, then once it gets to like the end, when it's less yarn and it's a bit more unstable to pull from it. I mean, if you pull straight up as it's on the ground, it's fine, but I usually sit on the side and then it might wobble over. Then I just treat it as I would a ball of yarn. I have it on the couch next to me and knit from it, and it's fine. Number 5, special fiber blends. If you want to try some fiber compositions that you've never tried before, I would highly recommend looking at the listed stores below for the deadstock yarns, because these stores often have fiber blends that I have never seen in a yarn store before. I mean, you can of course get your 100% merino, your 100% cashmere, your merino nylon blends, your alpaca, your silk alpaca, your silk mohairs. These are fiber compositions that are very common in the big commercial yarn brands and often available at local yarn stores. But in these stores that sell cones, you can find very special fibers: camel, yak, cashmere, yak, silk blends, angora in there, and different like percentages of compositions, which is great. And some of them will offer to send you samples if you want to try and feel the yarn before ordering a big cone. So do look into that. I'll try to remember the ones that I know about. But yeah, it's a great way to find special fibers and try them for an affordable price. Number 6, a big cone goes a long way. So, if you're the kind of person who worries about running out of yarn and you don't enjoy playing yarn chicken, then it is a good option to get a big cone of yarn. Let's say you get a cone with, I don't know, 850 grams or a kilo. There's a lot of yarn on that cone, and you can definitely make at least one garment, probably even 3. I mean, all depends on how thick the yarn is. But I feel confident when I knit from a cone that I'm not going to run out of yarn unless, I'm using one of the smaller cones, because it does go a long way. And I know that because I have knit some things that are humongous. And I will show you that in a bit. And then I put up the last point. There are other things that might come to me as I'm talking, but I would say that you could consider it a more environmentally friendly option, because if it's dead stock or commercial, yarn on cones go through less steps of production, less machinery, less water usage, so that way more environmentally friendly. I have yet to find a single cone of yarn that is superwash. So all of the yarns that I have on cones are non-superwash, which means they are not coated in microplastics. So that makes it more environmentally friendly. And then lastly, if you buy those cones that are dead stock cones, they are basically being saved from being destroyed. They are leftovers from the clothing industry, and you are giving it a new opportunity to be used, whereas it otherwise would have just been thrown away. Yes. Yeah, I think those are like my key points of why I love knitting from cones. And now I'm gonna take you through all of the cones that I have. Like I said, I'm gonna do it in 3-ish bulks. One of them will be commercially available cones, so if you use up a cone and you need more, you're probably going to be able to get the exact same colorway and yarn. The other bulk is going to be the dead stock yarns, so they redistribute cones from the fashion industry. And then I have a bulk of yarn that's from local yarn stores or accidental finds. I'll show you the accidental finds, and then we'll go into the commercial ones, and then we'll finish with the dead stock yarns. Because this is my first cone of yarn that I ever bought, and I have not knitted with it. I found this at a thrift store in Poland when I was a student there, and I had gotten back into knitting, and I saw this, and I had never seen a cone of yarn before, and I mean, it was basically free, and I was excited. It was yarn, and it looked like a lot of yarn, and I have no idea what this is. It feels like a merino, maybe, or 100% wool. I don't think it's alpaca. I think it's a wool blend. I've not knit with it because, as you can see, it's not if you know me, it's not my color. I don't enjoy purple. So yeah, maybe my first ever cone would be a good prize to put into the Cozyconealong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 100% wool fiber, but I'm not sure. It says Heather dye number 1777 inside. It doesn't say which brand it is or content or anything. I put my little kitchen scale here so I could see. It says it's 490 grams, so I guess this is something they would have sold as a 500 gram cone. Fun information for you if you want to knit from cones. The insert of the cone typically goes between 30 to 50 grams depending on the composition. The cardboard ones are usually between 20 and 30 grams, 25 to 30. I've measured the ones that I've used up. And the plastic ones, which are generally a little bit heavier, I would say subtract 50 grams to calculate how much yarn you have. So this was my first ever cone. And then I want to show you my second. This cone is no longer a cone. It is a gigantic amount of knitting, however. And this made me fall in love with knitting from cones. I went to a local yarn store called Carmen, and I am pretty sure that that cone was originally bought from the Holst factory because it feels very similar to the yarns that I have from Holst. And I bought a big cone. I think it must have been at least a kilo of yarn in this gorgeous green colorway. And I took this with me everywhere, to the cabin and the car knitting. I just put it on the floor and knit from it on tiny little needles. I think I used 3mm needles or even smaller. And I knit moss stitch. And this is a humongous monster. It is a thin blanket. It covers a king-size bed. And I just kept knitting and knitting and knitting until I had almost used up the entire cone. It's a lot of knitting. This took me years to make, but I loved it. And it is so nice and warm. Very lightweight, woolly, but thin. So I used up almost the entire cone, and then because this is so huge, I was worried about running out of the yarn in the middle of a row. So I bound off, and then I managed to squeeze out a tiny baby blanket with the remainder on the cone. So it goes a long way. That's a lot of fabric from a cone of yarn. And actually I use this so much. This is just garter though. I didn't do the moss stitch for this one. This is just garter. And I use this in the baby's car seats to just have a little bit of fabric over her instead of closing up the zipper bag most days. So yeah. This was from Carmen. That local yarn store is no longer in existence. But like I said, I am pretty sure that this is Holst Supersoft cone, which I have some to show you. So yeah, a lot of fabric from a kilo of yarn. Like you can see, you get a lot of volume out of a cone once you knit it up. Yes, I'm gonna... Where am I gonna put all of these things? I'll throw it over there. Yes. And then I have two cones that I'm not sure where I purchased them. This is from some online store that I stumbled upon years ago, somewhere in Europe. And it's a mohair blend, very fluffy. But I think the nylon content in this, it's not silk, I think it has a nylon content. And I tried swatching with it and I did not enjoy it as much. I sadly don't know where it's from or the composition because this one doesn't have a tag. But yeah, still wanted to be honest and show you all of my yarn. And then I have this one, which I am also not sure where I purchased. I think I have purchased this on one of my travels from some local yarn store. It's a mohair tweed, knoll yarns. But for the life of me, I cannot remember where it's from. But it's a nice, pretty tweed yarn. I've seen a lot of beautiful tweed yarns on cones on the other stores that I will tell you about in a bit. And then I have a few yarns that I have purchased at the Sandnesgarn mill. Last time I went to Sandnesgarn, they had cones in their, They have a special room with yarns on sale and mill ends and such, and this time they actually had some cones. So Sandnesgarn don't sell coned yarns online, but if you ever were to visit Norway and go to their factory, you might be lucky. And they did not have information. Look at this. They did not have information about what yarn this is, but my gut feeling is telling me that this right here is alpaca følgetråd. And then this one, I am pretty sure is one of their merinos, but I am not sure if it is their Sunday or one of their other merinos. I feel like it is thicker than their Sunday, so I don't know if it might be their double Sunday or one of their other merino blends. But this is a huge cone. This is very heavy. It's 2.3 kilos if I subtract the cone insert, whereas this alpaca følgetråd is 1.9 kilos. So this will go a long way. I am very excited about the alpaca følgetråd looking sort of, I'm pretty sure that's what this is because I have knit with some alpaca følgetråd. I love that I have a few cones which would work great as a second strand, because there are a lot of patterns out there where they recommend combining yarns, and I do like combining yarns because it adds strength and it decreases pilling. So having some cones that I can easily use as a second strand without worrying about running out is great. So I do have some plans of using this instead of silk mohair in certain projects. Speaking of using cones as a second strand, I have this garment that I have knit. This is the Fields of Gold sweater that I knit, where I held one strand of knitted in together with one strand of silk mohair from a cone. Now this is not the same colorway, but it's the same cone. I talk about this now because this is no longer available. This is actually Knitting for Olive silk mohair. They used to sell it on cones, and I'm very sad that they don't do so anymore, because I would definitely be purchasing their silk mohair on cones. But I had a light, like dusty pink that I used with the knitted in to knit up this sweater. Now, sadly, I don't wear this too much, and it's because of the colorway. I don't find it suits me. So at some point I might be gifting this to a family member who will look better in it than I do. But yes, I have this one still. This is their 70% mohair, 30% silk in the color Rust. And I'm thinking it's around 200 grams on the cones. 250 grams, and then subtract maybe 25 from the insert. I bought this at a local yarn store on sale because they were not gonna be selling them anymore, sadly. Maybe Knitting for Olive will see this and get their cones back. That would be amazing. And then I'm gonna, let's transition now into the commercially available cones. And I'm gonna start with showing you some Norwegian cones that might be a little bit tricky to get your hands on, but still possible. Rauma, the Norwegian yarn company, they do sell yarn on cones in their factory. And they will also send yarn cones to local yarn stores who stock Rauma. So if you ask your local yarn store to contact Rauma, they are able to buy their cones. And I know that they have their finull on cones and they have their lammel on cones. I have 2 of these cones in lammel in the color L486X, so it's like a mossy dark green. and I bought this on sale there, so it was very affordable. And I also purchased 2 cones of their white, unbleached, undyed lamel that I have used for this project. So the lamel is thinner than a fingering weight. I've used it held double to make these Stella quilt cushion covers. Or this is the blanket. The Stella quilt blanket from Laura Penrose. So I'm holding it double, and that's creating a nice DK weight yarn. And then I'm pairing it with other single skeins of DK weight that I have in my stash. Now this is a long-term whip, and I haven't worked on it in a long time, but I will get around to it eventually. I purchased 2 big cones of that yarn for this specifically, so that has a purpose to it. This is all going to fall over. And then I have 3 cones of their fennel. And this is the color 411X. I bought these 2 brown ones because I think they would make both great sweaters, but also great blankets. So those are the plans for these 2. And then I've made a little swatch that I will keep with the cones for information so that I can easily see what kind of gauge patterns I would look for. So I have knit it on 3.5mm needles. That got me a 22 stitch gauge, and on 4mm it got me a 20 to 21 stitch gauge. So fennel is a sport weight yarn. And I've also made a sweater in the past with some cones that I bought on sale at Rauma that I'm pretty sure is fennel. It feels like fennel. And I made this sweater. This has the same cable stitch as in my Freyr sweater design, but I did a lot of other modifications to it. But I've used this a lot. It pills quite a bit, but I think fennel can do that. It's not very tightly spun of a yarn, and I have quite a bit left of this because when I purchased, let's see, I have 3 cones of that exact yarn. That was also on sale at the factory, so it was very cheap, maybe like 100 or 200 kroners per these. And I just wanted to show you, they were pretty much the same size, and after knitting a sweater I still have this much left on that cone. So a cone does go a long way, and I'll probably be able to get at least 1 more sweater out of this cone, maybe even 2. So yeah, there's that. Now I'm gonna just tidy up behind me a little bit, and we will talk about the next commercial we will talk about the next commercial cone yarn store. Alright, next, commercial cone store. So, I live in Norway. Hillesvåg is one of the old mills on the west coast that do sell internationally. I think you can email them, and they do have a few yarn bases on cones. Their favorite yarns, which are the more woolen spun and Norwegian yarns, are not on cones, but they have this one that I have in my stash. This is the Huldra Kamgarn in the color Cognac. I've had this forever, and I've only used it for like little things. So these are not big cones, they're quite tiny cones. And I'm gonna have to check the weight on this. It's 250 grams on these. And then I also purchased one of their cones of hemp that I use in my garden. So that's another resource that you would have to contact them, but they are available commercially. And then some very well-known stores that I keep confusing is Jamieson and Smith and Jamieson's of Shetland. And I cannot remember which one is from where. This is the color FC62. And this is the color light gray. So I'm pretty sure one of these is Jamieson and Smith and the other one is Jamieson of Shetland. They sell both balls of yarn but also cones of yarn. And I had a look at both of the websites. On Jamieson's of Shetland, they call them weaving cones, and they are 500-gram cones, and they cost around £11.15 for half a kilo of yarn, and that's 100% wool. Jamieson and Smith, they call it jumper weight cones, and I'm pretty sure this is Jamieson and Smith because I think I remember the FC62 being what, like, their kind of colorway name. That's 500 grams, costs £35 still. £35 for half a kilo of 100% wool yarn, that is a good price point. And they say that it's around 2,100 meters on one cone of yarn. So that is a lot of meterage right there. I've not knit with the orange one I have, which I mean, they might be both Jamieson and Smith, or this might be Jamieson of Shetland. I'm not 100% sure, but both sell coned yarns for very affordable prices. These, I would say, are in the more rustic family when it comes to yarn. I have knit a sweater up in this that I held with some silk mohair, and I still found it quite prickly, so keep that in mind. But if you're not sensitive and you really love some woolly rustic yarns, then both Jamieson of Shetland and Jamieson and Smith are very good, affordable, readily available cones online. I'm pretty sure they ship internationally to everywhere. Next site is a French store chain called Ladroguerie. I first stumbled upon them on a trip to Paris and I came home with some coned yarns. They do have an online store and they should ship internationally. For some reason, I'm denied access to that website, but I think that is because I tried to access it through my phone. I tried on my computer and that worked, so I don't know what's the story behind that. But in Paris, I came home with these two beautiful cones right here. Ladroguerie has several bases that they will sell both on cones, or they will offer to wind it up for you so you could get exactly what you want in cakes of yarn to take home. I fell in love with these two colorways. They should be 500 and 420 grams. And this is their alpaca naturel base. Yes. This is gris anthracite and brulis are the colors. I have not knit with these yet. I've sort of been hoarding them and saving them because I think they're so pretty, both colorways, and they feel really nice. And also, I am a bit more hesitant to knit with alpaca than wool, just because it drapes more, so I want to be sure that I pick the right project for it, if you will. But then I went back to France last year and I found another Ladroguerie and I came home with some other yarns. I purchased this beast of a cone, but it's actually not that heavy. This is their Rebelle base, which is a it uses cotton and other fibers that are left over from production and then sort of made like a second-hand fiber from it. And my intention for this is to make some pillowcases for the couch and like some chunky cables. So that is the Rebel. And then I got one cone of their Deuce Highland in the ecru color. I just really wanted to try this yarn. I was thinking of making some simple baby blankets with this one. And then I purchased one more alpaca in the color Prunelle. This is very similar to the Amy Slipover colorway that I just knit with, a very nice red wine color. And then I purchased green, white, and this sort of rust color in their Sur Naturel base, plus one cake of this. So in their store, basically, I could have wound up into cakes exactly the amount I would need for a project, but I didn't really know for sure if I was going to end up making the project that I have planned here or not. So I bought the entire cones. So these are how the cones were in the store. They had more than one cone and they were different sizes. So I tried to pick cones that were enough yardage for making 2 adult sweaters, but not like way too much. So the plan for this is the camellia sweater, and I have enough here to make it for me and Matthias, is the idea. So if you're in France, do check out Ladroguerie. It's so much fun looking at all the cones, or check out their website. Next store. Alright, new day, new recording. Let's continue with what is probably the largest quantity of cones that I have from a specific store, and that is from Woolyknit. So Woolyknit is a commercial cone and hank website based in the UK. They create yarn from British wool. They also carry other yarn qualities. I wrote it down. What I have the most of and what I've used the most of is their British wool 4-ply, which they sell in 500 gram cones. They are 470 meters per 50 grams, and a cone costs 24 British pounds. They also have merino wool, the same thickness of yarn, that costs 34 pounds. It's around 28 stitch gauge for that yarn on 3mm needles. And they also have it in DK and a 5-ply Guernsey weight. And then they have the Aran British wool, which I have also used. That is a 400 gram cone, so slightly smaller cone. And that's 154 meters per 50 grams. And the recommended gauge is 18 stitches on a 5mm needle. And that costs 24 pounds, same as the 4-ply. They also carry a wool nylon 3-ply blend on 200 gram cones, a DK British wool weight, a cotton 4-ply on a 400 grams, acrylic, and a linen cotton blend. So I have quite a substantial stash of woolen cones because I have collaborated with them in the past as a podcaster. We've had 2 make-alongs together, and for that they sent me yarn to use, and they also sent me some like cones which weren't full cones, so they weren't completely 500 grams, but still a lot of them were. Here is one of the first things that I made. For this one I held 1 strand of their 4-ply together with a silk mohair. And I knit up the Copenhagen cardigan, which is a petite knit pattern with pockets on the front. And I love this project. I wear this cardigan all the time. I think it's a beautiful color, and the 4-ply British wool is really a great workhouse yarn. It's great quality. It's very woolly yarn, a bit like hairy. Let's see, this is the cone that I use. I used Drops Kid Silk as the mohair base for this. And on 4mm needles, that was a 22 stitch gauge. And this color is Loden Green. That's the color I use. I have a little swatch here. And I still have these two left, so not a lot of yarn. I can weigh it to see how much I have left. Let's see. So this is approximately 150 grams left on this one, and the other one is approximately the same. So I maybe have like 250 to 300 grams left. That is after subtracting the weight of the insert cone. And we'll see what I make with this leftover. I love this color, so I'm definitely going to find a use for it. And like I said, it's a really good yarn to hold with a silk mohair for those patterns that call for it. So yeah, highly recommend. I know Petite Knit has a lot of patterns that uses, she has a lot of patterns that uses a fingering with a lace weight, and the British wool would work really well for that. If you're super sensitive, the British wool is not like a buttery soft merino. It's a woolly sheepy yarn, but I would say it's for me, I don't have a problem wearing it. I don't need to have like a long sleeved shirt underneath this or anything, but it is slightly more tactile than a merino would be. I have these two cones of merino from Woolyknit that I have yet to use. I have the Mulhacen Undyed Natural and the Mulhacen Oatmeal. So these are both merino cones. And I believe these are some of the cones that I purchased, or at least one of them I purchased myself. So not all of the yarn has been sent to me. I have also made purchases because I do really enjoy their yarn. But for some reason I just haven't gotten around to knitting with the merino yet. So that is definitely on my list to try in the future. And this is softer than the British wool. I just really love the color range of their British 4-ply. That's a huge color range. The merino range is a little bit more limited. I don't know which one would suit me best, the more beige or the grey, but in the future it will become something. It's enough for a sweater, being 500 grams. And then I also knit up this. This is a free pattern for a shawl. It's the Half and Half Triangles Wrap, which is a free pattern on Pearl Soho's website, which I have knit 3 of. I've knitted in the Pearl Soho linen quill, which is the intended yarn, and then this version is knit in the British 4-ply. One of them is just black, pure black, and the other one is more of a tweedy 4-ply. And I have this much left of the 500 gram cones. It's the Skiddaw Nep. And I mean, this is a very big shawl, so it's quite a lot of yarn that's gone into this, and I still have quite a bit left. I can figure out how much. Yeah, so around 300 grams left on this after finishing the shawl. Now this one, I would say it is not as soft as the linen quill, because that has an alpaca content. This one is definitely more tactile, but it is also very lightweight and very warm. So I use this as a blanket, like a lap blanket, and I've also used it in the car on the kids, or Nelly mostly, or on their stroller for a nap. It's just a really nice small blanket, really. So highly recommend it for that. I'm just gonna put this on the side. And then the last big project that I have made other things as well, but they are at the cabin. So I'm just going to show you what I do have here. I made this gigantic blanket. This is the Fisherman's Afghan by the American School of Needlework. It's a very old, or not very, I don't know. I bought it on eBay, an old pattern book for blankets. And I made this big, I'm going to put in a photo so you can see, this huge blanket in their Aran weight British wool. I used 5 cones to make this blanket. The tassels took a cone itself. So a lot of yarn went into the beautiful tassels. But it was so much fun to have this on the needles. It was a long-term whip. There are 5 panels which are then sewn together, and then you do the tassels in the end. I have this on my bed upstairs, and I am very proud of this knit. It is beautiful. So that is a good, affordable, 24 pounds, and then I needed 5, so what is that? It's like 120 pounds for a gigantic blanket and 100% wool yarn. I feel like that's a good price for what you get. This is what I have left of the 5th cone of the natural cream colorway. And I will have timestamps, so if you don't want to look at colorways, you can just skip ahead. But I figured I would show you the cones that I do have, because I think I've written the names of the colorways inside, so you can see them in like daylight if you like it, or you can just skip to the next timestamp for the next source of cones. This is a natural cream Aran weight that I have bought in the past, that I found in my stash now that I was rummaging through. And then I have light grey natural. This is the British 4-ply. It's like a warm light grey, I would say. Yeah. Alright, I figured after dealing with some stuff out there, it would actually be better to just stand and show you the colorways. Just because that way I can organize as I go. So let's start with the green colors. This is the pine forest green that you see here, and it's a more of a like bottle green kind of yarn. And then there is the dark apple green. I fell in love with this color. I'm a huge fan of this like lighter apple green color. And then this is the Loden green. So I have actually another cone of this in my stash. And yeah, I've made stuff with this in the past, and I would like to make more in the future. I really enjoy that green. And then I have a cone here which I have not written down the name for. Let's see, actually I have more. Here's another one. These are probably the ones that they sent to me when we had our little collaboration. This one, Celtic green. And then I have one burgundy. This is called burgundy red. Really beautiful color. I had an idea to make a slipover with this one. I've just made a burgundy slipover. So maybe this will become a cardigan for one of the girls. I don't think this is a full 500 gram. This is one of the ones they sent to me. It's looking a little bit smaller. This is the leftovers of the black from the half and half triangles wrap. This is jet black, so probably have around 300 grams of this one. And another one that they sent, 100% wool in the color carbon. This feels softer to me, and that makes sense. Yeah, this is a merino cone. Oh yeah. So the brown labels are for the merino cones, whereas the blue is for the British wool cones. I have this one, orange. The only orange that I have, it's the burnt orange. And then I have the cinnamon brown. Love the cinnamon brown, very pretty color. And this one too, I really like this. This is a gorgeous brown. I don't know if I have written. It's the DK Gray Natural. It looks brown to me, but I guess you could call it a brown gray. Another gray is this one. This is the Morning Frost. And then this is the light gray natural. Really intrigued by this one that they sent. This is a very odd shape, not like any of their other cones. This is the Fenland Tweed. And I really enjoy the tweed color of this. I think it would make for a really nice sweater. So that is definitely something I'm making in the future. I think this is the one I have not shown. This is the Pure Aran, which is the color. This is their 4-ply British wool in white. It's called Pure Aran. So those are all of my yarns from Woolyknit. Affordable, great workhouse yarns. Not like super soft, but good quality yarn that will last a long time. So I highly recommend, and a gorgeous color range. This is just a small sampling of all of the colors that they do have. So I'm going to tidy this up a little bit and then be back in my chair to show you the next one. Okay, next up is another cone store based in the UK, which produce yarn at their own mill, which is the website is called knitrennie.com, but it's also referred to as JC Rennie, so I'm a little bit confused if it's Knit Rennie or JC Rennie, but you'll find the yarn if you Google either one of them. And they sell cones on 500 or 850 gram cones, and the cones that I have purchased were the 850 because that just gave me more yarn to play with and less yarn chicken and more opportunities. They also have the different yarn qualities in different thicknesses, so you could buy it as a fingering weight or a DK weight, and more options. And what else did I write down? They also sell the yarn as balls of yarn. Those have been washed, whereas their cones are referred to as greasy cones. And they definitely are the greasiest cones of the cones that I do possess. They smell quite a lot like petroleum, but once you get that spinning oil out of the yarn, it is absolutely gorgeous and such a beautiful yarn for the price that you pay. I have knit with their supersoft cashmere, which is a 87% lamb's wool and a 12% cashmere blend, and for 500 gram cones of the cashmere blend is £41, whereas the 850 grams I think costs £50. They also have a supersoft blend. Somebody said that they believe the supersoft blend is the same yarn as the Bisha Bouche lamb's wool. I don't know if that's true, but definitely they have the similar look to their colorways. Gorgeous heathered colors. And they are quite affordable. It's £27 for the 850 gram cones. They also have unique Shetland, 850 grams for £25, £20 for the half kilo. They also have chunky lamb's wool, same price range. Shetland Freedom, same price range, and their chunky Freedom. I've only purchased their cashmere blend, and I think maybe one of the cones is super soft. but I will show you. You can see this cone right here. Is their supersoft cashmere in rusty pecan, and this color might just be one of my favorite colors of all time when it comes to the cone yarns that I have. It's a brown with red, yellow and blue specks to it, and I knit up a swatch holding it double, you can see here, and once the spinning oil is washed out, it does get a bit more of a like dusty halo to it. It's not as stark, those color specks, but they're still visible. And it softens up so much. I definitely had a bit of trial and error to get the spinning oil out. And next time I knit with it, I will start by soaking it in warm water with dishwater or dish detergent. And then I will rinse it in water before doing my regular like Cozyconealong wool soak, because the dish detergent will dissolve the spinning oil. So this no longer smells anything like spinning oil. This I have used a lot actually. It's the No Frills pattern by Petite Knit. I held 2 strands of the cashmere blend, supersoft cashmere from Knit Rennie for this one. And it is such a nice fabric to feel. And it's also holding up really well. There is a little bit of pilling, but I haven't depilled it, and I have used this a lot. So I feel like for a cashmere blend, you need to expect that there will be pilling. But this is honestly not that bad, and the fabric is absolutely lovely. So I'll be knitting with this held double again next time, going straight into the dish detergent to get rid of the spinning oil. You could skein it up first and wash it. I just knit outside on my balcony and it was fine. The other colors that I have 1 cone of green. This is the supersoft. So this one is not the cashmere blend. This is the supersoft blend. And it's a light fingering weight yarn, and still has the same like petroleum spinning oil scent to it. I might just try to knit up something for one of the girls in this one to be like one of the knitting outside on the balcony knits. I have this cone, which is beautiful, but I do wish I would have gone for another colorway. It reminds me of unicorns. It's like pink with lilac and fuchsia and white in there, but it's just not my color. And I'm pretty sure it would be very cute for one of the girls, but I just don't want to knit with a color that I don't enjoy. I mean, I enjoy it, but not enough. This is the Aphrodite, and if you like pink, this is absolutely gorgeous. I personally wish I would have gone for something darker like this, which is more in my wheelhouse. But it's stunning. So, I mean, I bought it because I thought it was visually stunning. So, I have another bright color. This is the Supersoft Cashmere blend in the Hephaestus color. A absolutely stunning orange. Again, thinking that this would be something fun for the girls to knit up with. I have a lot of it. I'm in no rush to use up my cones, but I think this video is good because I'm now organizing things a little bit more and putting things in a different order to see what I have. And maybe I should keep the more colorful ones a little bit more up front to grab to make for gift knits and such. This gorgeous color is definitely something I gravitate towards. This is also the cashmere blend in the color Morpheus, and it's just a beautiful like reddish brown hue. And this would be something for me, I think. Both are brown, but they are different browns, so they both have their purpose. It would be interesting to see how much I have left of this, because I did hold it double. This is the 2/11 3mm. And I have 250 grams left. This is a plastic cone. To be safe, I would subtract 50 grams, so I would say I have 200 grams left of this, which means that maybe I used 850 minus 250. What is my... maybe I used around 600 grams to make this held double, although I feel like it's lighter. So did I buy the 500 gram cone? I'm not sure. Don't hold me to anything that I say in this nursing brain fog era of my life. I also have this one. I went back and forth on the website so many times to decide on colorways. This one I'm pretty sure is the oyster. Yeah. And it is just the most beautiful gray. It's a warm gray, so it's like heathered with yellowish hues to the gray. And it's just a perfect oyster color. So the plan for this is a sweater for me. One of those more like everyday sweaters. And the last cone that I have is elephant. Yeah. I also think this is a nice representation of an elephant's color. This one is more of a like a brownish gray, a darker, warmer gray, whereas this is a lighter, warm gray. Yeah, absolutely stunning colorways. And I think, you know, if there's of the commercial yarns that I have, what I'm most inclined to purchase more of right now would be that cashmere blend, just because that I've used this so much lately. Now that I can't have a lot of fluff, there isn't any fluff from this, and it's still so nice and soft and warm, and the color is just chef's kiss. So in that regard, I would like to have more of their colorways in their cashmere blend. I would also like to knit up the supersoft one that I have, just to see if I like that. If I remember, when I ordered from their website, I think I had to email them which yarns I wanted, and then they got back to me with how much the shipping would be. They're based in Scotland, I think, and with the shipping abroad and everything, I think that's how they did it when I purchased, that I emailed them the quantities and colorways, and then they got back to me based on my address how much the shipping cost would be. Totally worth it though. Yeah, really happy with those. Next up, I have a Danish-based company, which is Holst. So let me just change things around and show you what I have from Holst. Alright, so Holst is a Danish-based company, I believe, that sells yarn on cones. And it's one of the first commercial cone stores that I heard of. And I went a little bit berserk back then and bought several cones. I also knit quite a bit with it, and some things have been gifted since, but I do have two big projects in this yarn. Let me just check. I think I went on to check their prices today, and I have 3 different yarn qualities from them. They also sell yarn in balls or cakes. Beautiful color range again, similar to the JC Rennie looking in the way that the yarn looks, like that heatheredness where it's dyed in the wool, I believe. Most of my cone stash from Holst is their supersoft. They sell it as 500 gram cones. That's 50% Shetland and 50% Merino. And they are about 287 meters per 50 grams. And they cost 280 Danish kroners. So you would have to check what that would be in your currency. But I think probably slightly more than 30 euros in my head, if the last time I checked was correct. Their coast is a 35 wool, 45 cotton. No, 55 wool, 45 cotton blend. That is a sport weight yarn that costs 300 Danish. Their tides is a 70% wool, 30% silk. That's the same thickness as the supersoft, so like a light fingering, and that's also 300 Danish. They sell their cones as 500 gram cones. I just weighed my cones. Now my cones are bought several years ago, but all of these cones were like closer to 600 grams. Now, of course, the insert does weigh something, but like I said, when I've measured the inserts, they're usually right 25 to 30 grams. So that means there's more than 550 grams of yarn on these cones. And it might be because when you wash it, some of the spinning oil goes out, so maybe that's some of the weight. So in reality, once you subtract the insert and you've washed out the spinning oils, maybe it's more like 500 grams. But I like that you're getting more than what they say. I have made two things that I have in my house. One of them is this masterpiece, if I may say so myself, of a cabled sweater that I knit. I freestyled this design, and I'm very proud to have made something that, in my opinion, looks quite professional. I used some cables that you can find in the Japanese Stitch Bible. I've seen a lot of designers use cables from this book. I might be wrong, but it looks like Irene Lin and Kutuvakika and what's the other designer? Finnish designer. She has the Billy pullover. Oh, brain fog. I'm sorry. But I've seen several designers using cables that look a lot like the cables from the Japanese Stitch Bible. So if you are adventurous and you want to add some special cables to your knitting, I can recommend the Japanese Stitch Bible. Not beginner-friendly cable charts, I would say, but I mean, absolutely gorgeous. So for this one, I have the same cables on the front and the back. And then I did some sort of a saddle shoulder thing into a raglan. I could not replicate this myself if I were to try. I don't remember what I did. But this is on me like an oversized slouchy fit. And on Matthias, it looks really good. I knit it to be big enough to fit him and long enough. So I am very happy with this. He says that it itches a little bit. And I can see that. The Supersoft is not super soft. It's a Shetland wool blend. It's definitely more on the rustic side. Then again, that might be a negative if you're sensitive, but it also means that the yarn is very durable and there is no pilling to this after all the worn that it's gotten. And the color range is also gorgeous and it's very affordable. So do with that what you will. I can show you, this is what I have left. I think I probably bought 2 cones in this yarn. I knit with it held double, and I think I used 1 cone at a time, and I wound off balls of yarn or cakes of yarn. I put it on my floor, and then with my ball winder, I just wind off a cake of yarn. But based on the weight of this combine, I have 1 kilo here. So seeing as they sell their yarn on 500 gram cones, and most of them weigh closer to 600, I conclude that I used 2 cones of yarn to make a gigantic XL men's sweater, all over cabled sweater held with the yarn double. So 1 cone of yarn is definitely enough for a garment, If you want to hold it double and you want to make a big size, get 2. This one I made for me, and I only had 1 cone for this next project. And here I only use 1 strand, but I held it together with a fluffy yarn. I held it together with Mona Merino from Camerose, and I made this cardigan that has a tie front, and the name escapes me, but I will I'll put it either on screen or below. So I use 1 strand of yarn together with a fluffy yarn, and this one is a lot softer to the touch because of the combination with the fluffy yarn. So that is a good way to soften it up a little bit and make it more next to skin soft if you're sensitive. I have more colors than those 2 that I have yet to knit with, but hopefully I have a long life ahead of me, or my children will be knitters. We shall see, well, hopefully. This is their black color in supersoft. I, for some reason, often feel like I need more black yarn. I want more black knits, but then I end up not knitting that many black knits because it's very dark and hard in the eyes to knit with, but I have it for future use. I have 2 cones of this gorgeous colorway. This is maybe one of my favorites next to the cinnamon. This is the Scots Pine colorway. And I actually got a little nugget of this for an advent swap with Amy Palco. She's based in Scotland. She lives in Edinburgh, hoping to see her soon. We did a little swap with like scraps from our stash for an advent, and one of them was the Scots Pine, and I just loved knitting up that color. So this will definitely become a sweater project for me in the future, probably holding it double, so I don't want to mix it with something so the color can shine. It could also make for a really nice blanket. And then I have 2 of the truffle. Yes, this is the truffle colorway. This reminds me a bit of the oyster color, but there are more colors heathered into this. It's like pink and yellow and blue together to create this gorgeous gray. And then I have 2 of this as well. I think I was a little bit more disappointed with this color when it arrived because it wasn't as heathered as the other ones. This is the coffee color. I think it looked better online than it does in real life. This is a pinkish brown hue, and not more like the more saturated dark brown. Did I say blue? I meant brown if I did. I don't think it looks like coffee to me. So we shall see what that will become in the future. And the last super soft color that I have is the tobacco, which is more my kind of brown. This is brown with some yellow hues to it. Whereas the cinnamon, you can see it's lighter, and the cinnamon definitely has more color variation to it. I don't know if I said the color of the white or beige that I used. It's almond for the cardigan. I used almond. Yes. I also have, like I said, there are other 2 quantities of yarn. And oh yeah, I do have this tiny nugget of the coffee. So I have used this before, but for the life of me, I can't remember what I knit up in this yarn. I think I made a shawl, but I must have made something more than a shawl because there's very little left on this. Maybe I used it in 2 shawls. Maybe I used it in my Stephen West Vertices Unite as well. Why am I so forgetful? This is the tides. So this is the wool and silk blend, the 30% silk. It kind of has a dry feel like you would expect from like more of a barrette silk. It doesn't really have a shine, it's more matted. So this would probably become a good garment for the kids for more like summer wear. And then this one is their cotton merino blend. They're tides. No, they're both tides. I only have tides. Yeah. The pecan tides and the mole tides. I like this colorway better, the darker one. I think it suits me more. So I would probably knit with this for myself and maybe this for the kids. The coast, I definitely had one cone of coast because I remember purchasing it, but I think I didn't like the colorway for me, so I gifted that to someone as a gift. And for this one I actually did a swatch for my Freyr sweater where I held the yarn double and I got gauged. So this was one of the options for my Freyr sweater. So if you would like to see how the cables would show, I think it would be a good yarn to use for it as a wool silk blend for a slightly less warm of a garment. This is a 21 stitch gauge, and I did not put on which needle size I used. I probably used 4.5 millimeter needles, either 4 or 4.5, because that's what I did all the swatches in. So yeah, that could be an option to do a Freyr sweater in this. Yes. So that was all of the yarns that I have from Holst. Again, affordable, good quality wool yarns. And it's nice that they also have that silk blend and cotton blend for those who live in warmer climates. I do think though that the supersoft is the one with the widest color range. So many beautiful colors, and they do also sell it in balls, so you don't have to get the cones if you want to just try it out. Same with the knit Rennie, they also sell it in balls, and Woolyknit also sells hanks and balls of yarn, I think. Okay, let's see. In front of me here I have deadstock yarn, deadstock yarn, deadstock yarn. Just gonna check my notes to see I haven't forgotten any of them. No. Okay, so I think I've gone through all of the commercially available cones that I own. That is the majority of my cone stash and my oldest cone stash. And then in the recent last years, I've gotten more into the special yarn qualities that you find in deadstock yarns, which is a lot of fun to see what's out there. So I'm gonna move into that. I'm just gonna tidy up and show you the next section. Okay, moving into the deadstock cone distributors that I know of. I have cones from 6 different online stores based in Europe, which sell deadstock cones from the fashion industry. So this is yarn that was produced to make fabric and clothing and not intended to be produced for knitters, but is amazing yarn for knitters to use at a very decent price for the fabric material compositions that these cones have. And I've been trying to find these cones which are mostly natural fibers, so not so much polyamide and acrylic, and I think I have a decent selection in those stores that I have to talk to you about. So let's start with the store that is the newest. It opened up in March, and they are increasing their stock as this is being recorded. This is whenyarnblooms. They are based in Germany. They ship internationally. And this is a store run by friends, Maria and Daria. They bonded over knitting, and they have opened up a online store called whenyarnblooms, which is a cone store. Their name, whenyarnblooms, is based on the fact that when you knit with coned yarn and you wash it up, it really does bloom. It's beautiful in that regard. And I have 5 cones from whenyarnblooms, and they are very generously giving you a 10% discount if you use the code Inga. And they are also sponsoring 3 prizes for the Cozyconealong, 50 euros per prize, so that is very generous of them. They have a very organized website, so I recommend you go and have a look. And if you have any questions about their yarns or what you could knit with it, they are very quick at responding. So you could either use their form on their website or you could message them on Instagram. They're very quick with responding. And they will wind up the yarn to however much you need and on however many cones you need. So like for example, here I have 2 cones of a very special composition. This is the 50% yak, 20% silk, 15% cashmere, and 15% merino. And I have this on 2 cones so that I'm able to knit with it either single-stranded or double-stranded. And it's 500 meters per 100 grams, so that would make it like a light fingering. And I have swatched already. My swatch, you can see I put it on top of the cone as it was drying. I shouldn't have done that. I did that as I was recording a podcast. But I have done a double-stranded on 3.5 millimeters, and then on 3 millimeters, and then single-stranded on 3 millimeters. And it has softened up a lot already just with washing it in the sink with just water. I think if I were to leave it to soak in warm water with some wool soak, it's gonna bloom even more. But just that little rinse has already softened up the fiber a lot. I think it's going to make for a beautiful sweater garment or cardigan. My plan for this is to find a pattern that would be a like everyday staple. So I have around 400 grams ish on each, and then subtract the insert. So I'm very excited to find the perfect pattern for this. I'm thinking a stockinette garment, maybe a V-neck. We have to decide on this, but I want it to be something that I will throw on like everyday sort of thing with jeans or whatever I wear of pants, because I think it's going to be really nice. I think a single strand of this could work really well. If I were to hold it double, it would pill less. I am sort of assuming, since it has a yak and cashmere content, which are generally very soft fibers with a higher probability of pilling, if I were to hold it double, that would help prevent that a little bit. But it also seems like a nice twist to the yarn, so I think that's also going to help it stay nice over time. So I have that yarn, and then they very generously sent me these 2 cones. I think Daria is currently knitting with this exact yarn. This is a 100% superfine merino, and the same thickness, 500 meters to 100 grams. So this is a mixture of a very light pink, a white, and a light gray. It's not my typical coloring, but it would make for something very cute for my little girls. So we'll see in the future. And then this one is probably what I'm going to cast on first, because I'm very drawn to the color. and also it's just so nice and soft. Even before washing, this is very nice and soft. This is a 46% cotton, 28% extra fine merino, and 15% polyamide. It's 200 meters to 100 grams, so it's quite a thick yarn. And I have swatched with 2 different needle sizes. It's a little bit difficult to see because it's a boucle yarn, but I believe I have swatched here, because I made little garter bumps to tell me the needle size, that this is 5 millimeters and this is 4. And my plans for this, and this is probably going to be my next cast on and my first new entry for the Cozymakealong, because I also have some current whips on the needles on cones. But my next cone cast on for the Cozyconealong is probably going to be this yarn for the in Norwegian it's called Loon Turtleneck by Vitre Design. I think it's Snug Turtleneck in English. I have that pattern. I've knitted in the past, but I knitted in a yarn that was itchy, and this does not feel itchy at all, so I think it's going to be the perfect snug turtleneck with like a boxy fit. I think it's going to get a lot of wear, so this is my probably next cast on. So yes, next one that I have to show you, oh, the lighting is changing, so I'm sorry if that's affecting the camera quality. I will find my next cones and show you. So let's move from Germany into Switzerland. There is another store there that also carries deadstock yarn from the fashion industry. I stumbled across this store, Lowi markt, at the Knitfest festival that I went to in November of 2025, and I love cone yarns. So when I saw that there was a stand at the festival with cone yarns, I spent most of my time at this stand to decide on which cones to get. They have a focus on natural fibers, so the cones that they carry do generally not have artificial fibers in them. So there was a lot of treasures to feel and rummage through. And I got 2 of this. I got one on the Saturday, and then Sunday morning I went back early to get another one because this color was everything. And this is 100% cashmere. It looks like a tweedy cashmere, but it's 100% cashmere. There's no neps made of any other content. I think it's created by blending black and light green together, and it creates this gorgeous foresty color. And this is 275 meters per 100 grams. And these cones are around 500 grams. This is 530, this is 550, but they are these plastic inserts, so I'm guessing if I were to subtract those, around 500 grams each. And they cost around 120 francs for half a kilo of cashmere yarn. And this one is soft even on the cone, so I'm very excited to see how this is gonna turn out once it's been actually knit up and washed. Another one that I got is one that I got with my little girls in mind, because I thought it was a very nice, fun, tweedy color. This is 350 meters per 100 grams, and it's a silk merino blend, 70% merino, extra fine, and 30% silk. And this one is quite dry to the touch, quite hard. I did make a swatch for this one. Again, I only rinsed this in the sink with water. I haven't let it soak with any wool wash or anything yet. But even after putting it in the water, I feel like this is more dry feeling. That's probably due to the silk content. So for me, I would say that this yarn is probably going to become some summer t-shirts for the girls. Something more summery in mind. And have it at like a looser gauge. Maybe the 4mm needle swatch that I did here. And then I purchased a cone. I think Lydia from Lydia Habarba, which I met at the festival, also got this. This is their barrette silk that they carried. They had several colors in this. I got a color which I'm very uncertain what I would call. Is it a gray? Is it a green? It's sort of a mix and it changes in different lights. But it's 100% barrette silk. This is 350 meters per 100 grams. And I did knit a swatch with this because I wanted to knit a summer dress for my 2-year-old. And out of all the different swatches that I made for my summer cones, this was my favorite to knit with. It was very comfortable to knit with. Almost like the silk is slightly greasy. It's not that very stiff and dry feeling that a lot of the summer fibers that I have. So that was very comfortable to knit with, and it's a very nice soft fabric after washing it. So this is a good contender based on how much I love the feel of it. It's maybe not my number one contender color wise because I would like to have a light colored dress, but this might just be it. It has a beautiful drape. The last cone that came home with me from Lowi markt is another cashmere yarn. This is 100% cashmere, and it's 135 francs for 540 grams. So more than 500 grams without the cardboard insert. And this is buttery soft even on the cone. Not sure what I'm gonna knit with this. It's a single ply, very like fluffy strand of yarn. It's most likely, I'm 99% sure, gonna pill extremely. So I don't think I'm gonna make like a garment that I want to look pristine. I might turn it into something very cozy, like maybe some little neck scarf or a little stuffed toy for the girls. I mean, it might be excessive to have a cashmere toy, but that's going to be very nice to cuddle with. We shall see what I decide in the end, but very nice and soft. I must say, not many of the cones that I own I would say is soft to the touch because it needs that washing process to bloom. But those two are still nice and soft on the cone. Alright, next store. Staying in Central Europe or mainland Europe, we can move on to one of the first online cone stores of deadstock yarns that I stumbled upon in my search for special cone fibered yarns that were not heavy on the nylon content, and that is Woolyyarn, which is based in Latvia. And I have 3 cones from this store. 2 of them are silk mohairs, and that is how I found them, because I was looking for cones with silk mohair that was silk core and not polyamide. I was able to find several stores online that had mohair cones, but there was a polyamide strand to it. But this store had silk mohair. I think it's about 70% mohair, 30% silk to these. And the white one I bought quite a big quantity of because I do like to hold white mohair with a lot of the garments that I knit up in. I often will choose a white mohair even if the yarn that I'm holding it with is not white. I think it complements it. It lightens a garment without distorting from the color. I don't think you have to always have a matching second strand to the color you're knitting with. I find white works with a lot of projects. I've not used it for a garment yet, just because when it arrived I felt like it was not as soft as I was hoping it was going to be. Then again, cone yarns often are not that soft until you wash and block it, so I think I probably just need to knit up a swatch with it, wash it, and see how I like it. I did use the green one that I purchased. For this, I think I purchased 200 grams, and I just absolutely love this green color. Yeah, it's 250 grams, but then it's a plastic insert, so at least I have 200 grams here. And I did knit something up in this recently. I made my mors häl socks. So I used one strand of a wool yarn, Woolyyarn fibers, which was not a yarn that had any nylon content or anything that made it like a good sock yarn. But by holding it with the silk mohair, it adds a lot of strength and wearability. And I love making sort of house socks where I hold a special yarn with the silk mohair, because then I get to use that special yarn even though it might not be intended for socks. And the silk mohair makes it durable. It also makes it very warm and soft. It has like an extra cushioning effect because you get a thicker fabric, which means I can also knit on larger needles and have fewer stitches. It goes faster. It's just great things. This is my mors häl pattern, and I have worn these quite a bit, so excuse them not looking pristine. I just pulled them onto these beautiful sock blockers from Alchemy Knits, who has a price for this make along, so that I could show you. But yeah, if you do enjoy knitting with 2 strands of yarn, silk mohair balls are quite expensive. These cones is quite good value for what you get. I think I wrote it down. No, okay. I didn't check the price for the silk mohair, but I did check the price for something like this. This is the 3rd cone that I have from there. This one is approximately 50% baby yak, and then there is 10% polyamide, and then the rest is cashmere. I couldn't find this exact cone on their website anymore, because I mean I bought this years ago, and all of the stores that I'm talking about now are dead stock from the fashion industry, so they usually are not able to get the same yarn in again. But Woolyyarn does have tons and tons of cones with special fibers like yak, cashmere, and angora. So I found another one that is similar looking to this one, which was 70% cashmere and 30% yak, and that costs 16 euros per 100 grams. So I made a romper for my little girl. This is the Paul's suit, not a romper, suit. It's a pattern from Sandnesgarn, and I knit this on 2.75 millimeter needles, and the white stripes I used some scrap yarn of Sunday that I had in stash. And I didn't think it was gonna pill, but it has pilled. I've used this a lot, both day and night, on my little girl. This is the 3-month-old size. It is such a soft yarn that it would be expected to pill. As I was knitting up, I felt like it didn't pill at all as I was knitting with it, which I thought it would have, so I didn't think it was actually gonna pill, but considering how soft the fiber is, a little bit of pilling is okay. I also used this yarn to make the Sophie scarf for my mother-in-law, and that looks good as new and she uses it a lot. So I think just the whole carrying a baby and all of that movement around, it's the ultimate pill test, and it does pill a little bit, but not too bad considering how soft it is. And yes, so those are the yarns that I have from Woolyyarn. They have a huge selection of those sort of special fibers. I don't find their website the easiest to go through, but it has a huge selection, so it's fun to have a look and see what you can find. Moving on into Italy, there is an online store selling dead stock yarn from the Italian fashion industry based in Italy, and that's Knit Shop Italy. I have had 3 cones from them. One of them I've used up completely. I have their newsletter, so I get emails when they get in new yarn, so that is something you could check out on these different stores. If they have an option to get a newsletter email, if you want to keep your eye out for some special yarn to see what they get in, since there's always new things coming into these dead stock yarn stores. I got, I don't know if you would call this boucle, but I have this 100% artisanal synthetic fiber on a cone from them. I got this purely because of the gorgeous colors in this. This reminds me of those very like thin scarves at the beginning of the 2000s that my aunt would have. I just thought it was very fun. And then I have this very elastic, fluffy strand, which is it's a mix of, I think, wool and elastane and polyamide. There might be mohair in this. Don't quote me on it. It doesn't have a tag in here. This one I've only used for toys. I made this little toy, this little bear. I held one strand of that elastic fiber with one strand of something similar to Sunday that I had in my scrap stash. I also made a swan for Rennie, which we sadly lost. It makes for a very nice and soft fabric. I haven't used it on its own. I did swatch, but I found because of the elasticity of the yarn, it was a bit difficult to decide what kind of fabric it wanted to be. So that's why I've only used it held with something else to hold its shape. This yarn I held together with another boucle that I got from Knit Shop Italy, which I've used all of, and I created this cardigan. The back piece is the square from the Stella quilt cushion. I made some modifications to turn it into a cardigan, so I essentially added panels, and then I crocheted an I-cord edging around with the artisanal yarn, and I knit the sleeves until I ran out of yarn, because I had already made 3 other squares. So these were originally planned to become a baby blanket, but then I really loved the look of this so much that I wanted it to be a cardigan. So I turned one of them into a cardigan, and these 3 will become pillows. Sadly, the cardigan doesn't fit too well. Like I said, I just freestyled something, and it doesn't really fit the way that I had hoped it would, but it's still a piece of art. And I am very proud of having made it, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. let's move into another store. This one is a new store as well. It's based in the UK, but they offer shipping internationally, and it's the Yarn Atelier UK. It's run by a woman who is very lovely and very quick to respond, so you could message her if you have any questions. I have 2 cones of her pure cashmere. So this is the label. Pure cashmere by the Royal Collection is 100% cashmere, sport weight, 300 meters to 100 grams. This is the color chalk linen. And like I said, I have 2 cones of this. The pure cashmere sells for £31 per 100 grams. And I made some swatches to see what the cones wanted to be. I recommend doing that. If you purchase a cone, look at how thick the yarn is. If you want to hold it single, double, triple, pick a suitable needle size that you think would go well and make some swatches. So I made 5.5 millimeter needles, holding it double. I made a swatch, and then I used 4 millimeters and 3.5 millimeter needles, holding it single. And I enjoyed the 3.5 millimeter fabric with single strand the most. And then I found a cabled pattern, the Macy cardigan, and I swatched, and I even went down to 3.25, and that was what this fabric wanted to be for me. So I do recommend swatching to see which fabric you enjoy, and then find a pattern to match that gauge. And endless opportunities out there. So I'm currently working on this project, so this is going to be a whip entering into the Cozyconealong, because it doesn't have to be new cast-ons. If you already have something that you're working on from a cone, that can enter as well. I am working on the Macy cardigan. I have finished the body, and I'm currently knitting the sleeves of this. Absolutely beautiful gables. This yarn is very round. It works really well with the textured stitch and the cabling, so I can highly recommend it for that. It's not buttery soft on the cone. It feels quite dry, but once you wash the swatch, it does soften up very much. And even just handling it on my lap, moving it around, the initial part of the cardigan is already feeling softer than what I'm currently knitting on now. So, and just a little bit of appreciation of how good the twisted cable collar is looking before blocking even. It's a perfect combination of yarn and pattern, I think. So very happy with that. Need to find buttons, and I need to finish the sleeves, and then I'm good to go. I'm probably going to use up the entire cone that I have here of around 600 grams, and then we'll see if I have to break into the other one. So yes. A positive extra thing about Yarn Atelier UK that I can mention is that they cover the costs of import taxes. So like me, who lives in Norway, we have to pay 25% tax when we purchase things abroad. That tax is included in the shipping costs. So if you buy yarn from Yarn Atelier and you think the shipping is a bit pricey, that is because it includes those taxes, so that you don't have any surprises when you pick it up at the post office. So I think that is a great attribute to their online store. Moving on into a cone store that is sort of more local to me. It's based in Scandinavia. I've got some cones from Garnspecialisten. They are based in Norway, Sweden and Denmark. They have, I I found websites for .no, .dk, and .se, so I think they have separate bases in Scandinavia. And they ship to Europe. They sadly don't ship to the UK, US, and Canada. So if you live in those countries, you can skip to the next timestamp if you're not interested in seeing. But I have 3 different yarns from them. I have their alpaca mohair, which is 30% merino, 35% alpaca, and 35% mohair. It's 100 meters to 50 grams, and I have 250 grams of this. I have not knit with this as of yet, but I have knit with this yarn, which I have 2 of. This is their 100% merino. It's Italian. Their color is stövet brun, which means dusty brown. And these are 230 gram cones. And I have knit already a pair of pants for Nelly, which we used all the time. I'm going to see how much yarn I used for that. Around 72 grams. This is a free pattern from Drops called the First Impressions pants, and I used, I think, 3mm needles to knit this. It's a ribbed pants all the way down. There are no buttons, no elastic band or anything, just ribbed pants, which makes for a very easy knit. So functional. I have used this so much and have made it again in other yarns, and Mattia's mom has made several for kindergarten. Great pattern. And this merino worked really well with it. It's a sturdy merino. It's not one of those super soft merinos, but it's not itchy either. It's just more dry feeling, if you will. And it feels like a workhouse yarn. So I've been very happy with this. It's held up really well. There's a little bit of pilling, but I think that's mostly fiber from other things that she has worn, and not from this itself. 150 to 50 grams, so that's say 300 per 100 grams. So somewhere between a fingering and sport weight. But yeah, really enjoyed this yarn. And I have a huge cone that they sent me that I've not tried yet. It's 50% merino, 30% viscose, and 20% angora in the light truffle colorway. It's around 1 kilo of this yarn. And I'm very intrigued by this fiber composition. I would love to make something for the girls in this. I don't think it's my brown. It's too pale of a brown. I don't know. But yeah. So I haven't been super drawn to making a garment for myself because of the colorway. But the fiber content with the angora and viscose, I think it would be really interesting. I think I need to swatch with this and see what it wants to become. It would make for some very nice garments for the girls. I have seen several kids patterns knit up in a color similar to this, and it looks very like beige baby aesthetic pleasing. So yeah, that is Garnspecialisten. Those are all of the deadstock stores that I can remember ordering from in the past. My cone stash has accumulated over the years. They are my little treasures and endless opportunities of what they can become. I do have a few cones in my stash, to round this off, that are not bought online, that I've bought in local yarn stores as I've been traveling and found. I have 4 cones of what I believe is an alpaca blend. Very similar to the alpaca that I have from ladroguerie. So it might be that this local yarn store that I found in Wrocław in Poland that they have produced the yarn at the same place, but I do think that they've purchased these specific ones from an Italian mill, because it says Campolmi Filati inside. It's alpaca, colore 0, 401, and 725. I also have a brown one, but that's at the cabin because I'm currently knitting that together with a Zakami Advent into a blanket that I'm striping. But I do have this scarf that I knit when I lived in Poland. I have no idea what I did. I freestyled it. I'm pretty sure that I cast on and did increases on one side, and then I knit straight, and I did some striping, some colorwork striping, and then I did some decreases over here. This fabric is absolutely stunning. It is so soft and nice. Very thin yarn though, so I think if I were to make a garment, because that would be light fingering, bordering on lace weight even, I would probably hold it double, like I have with other cones in the past for garments, just to bulk it up a little bit. But you are able to find thicker yarn weights. The stores such as Yarn Atelier UK and whenyarnblooms, I know for sure they offer the opportunity to give you your yarn quantity in several strands so that you could hold it double or triple or whatever suits you to get a thicker yarn. That would also decrease the pilling because they would wrap around each other. Or you could look for deadstock yarn that are thicker in its own. They do come in more than just lace weight and cob weight on cones. I have sport weight and worsted weight and Aran weight in my cone stash. And Woolyknit and Knit Rennie, for example, they offer yarn in thicker yarn weights. So not just the thin ones, but if you enjoy knitting within yarn, you know, so many opportunities on its own. I also have some yarn that I bought when I was in Italy. I went to a local yarn store in Rome and they sold coned yarns. I got these two, which is 60% cotton and 40% viscose. Very pretty colors. Very shiny yarns. Didn't enjoy swatching it too much. It was very slippery of a yarn, and to be honest, I'm not completely sure what this fabric wants to become. It has some drape to it. It has a lot of shine to it. It knit up beautifully, but I'm just not sure. I mean, I don't knit a lot with summer fibers, and I feel like maybe this will be too like heavy of a summery garment, or maybe I would need to swatch it at a looser gauge, but then that would be see-through. So I'm not completely sure what this wants to become. I could make something for the girls. I especially love this color right here. I think it could make for a cute dress. So we shall see. So I got those, and I'm pretty sure I also got these 3 cones in Italy. Maybe not this one, but at least these 2 I think I got in Italy. This is the color Aqua, and this is Naturale. This I am pretty sure is a linen cotton blend, and I think this is the same, but it doesn't say, and I need to get better at writing in my cones if I purchase things like this, what the composition actually is. But I did swatch. This is a very thin strand again, so I caked off a little bit and I swatched holding it double, and it has a very nice thick and thin look to it. You can see how like the linen is spun unevenly, so you get those little like natural linen looking neps in the fabric of thick and thin, even if I hold it double. So I did 2 different gauges here. I used 3mm needles on one and 2.5 on the other one. And I think I enjoy the 3mm needle gauge more. It's more movement and it's more drape, whereas the 2.5 became a bit more stiff. It all depends on what I want in it. If I'm knitting a dress for the girls, 3mm. If I were to knit a top for myself, like a camisole or something, then maybe the 2.5 would be a better fabric. But this was stiffer and harder on the hands to knit with, so even though I love the color and I love the final look of the fabric, it might not be the next one that I cast on. I might prioritize the barrette silk from Lowi markt first. And then I have this one. There is remnants of a tag in here that says cashmere. So I'm guessing this is a cashmere merino blend. Not my typical color. I don't remember where I have this from. It might be a good thing to knit something for my nephew in this. Especially if it's a cashmere blend, then it's gonna soften up very nicely with washing. So yeah, that was my very honest, brutal, here I am with all my yarn sort of video. I hope you did enjoy seeing all of the colors that I have, and that at least you were able to take some like tips about knitting from cones out of this video, and maybe you're gonna go and check out these different websites to see what is available to you right now. I would say there is a different appeal to both the deadstock online stores and the more commercial cone stores. If you're looking for like workhouse yarn that will last really well with a generally huge color selection that you're going to be able to get more of, I would go for those commercial cone yarns like Woolyknit, Holst, Knit Rennie, you know, all the ones that I talked about. If you want to try some like special yarn fibers that you haven't gotten your hands on in the past for a more affordable price, I would definitely check out the deadstock yarn stores that I have mentioned, and I will list them below. And a lot of these stores have sales going and offers, so that is worth checking out as well. Like I mentioned before, I will put below in this video if any one of these stores have a current sale or coupon for you, or if they're gonna sponsor a price for the make along after recording this video. I will put that below so you can check out the description box. You can find it with a little arrow down underneath the video here, and I will link all of the stores that I've talked about. And we're gonna run this make along at least for 2026. Use the hashtag Cozyconealong on Instagram, and I'll be able to follow and see what you're making. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what sort of fibers people get their hands on and what they make with them. There's so many opportunities to what you can make with coned yarns. So yes, good luck. Bye.